Okay, now to add an important dimension to scenario planning. Obviously, in each scenario, based on what's going on, we need to consider what strategies we might take to correct the overall performance issues. The way that we correct performance issues in organizations is through projects or initiatives. So the idea here is we now need to design a series of initiatives that management would consider to combat these different scenarios. So again, using the example of finding a house, one project might be to buy a house and fix it up. Another project might be to buy a house, work harder at work to earn more money so that someone else can fix it up for you, and so forth. What are the three initiatives that management might undertake? To capture those in the spreadsheet, we've created a little area where we can take a look at different projects, alpha, beta, gamma for the sake of argument. And within them, I've identified the key metrics that we identified earlier on in the spreadsheet. And now, what is the impact of this project on that metric? So, for example, whatever this project alpha is, it's going to give us incremental revenue of $250,000. It's going to drop our costs by $100. It's going to increase our number of customers from 345. So again, what is the impact of this project based on the business as usual scenario? And what we'll be able to do with those projects is begin to document what they look like, and based on that, and I'll show you how it works in the spreadsheet, we'll understand the performance based on that scenario, multiplied effectively by the scenario weighting, how do we react to it, and considering what the project impact is so that we can give you the impact of that project in that scenario. And if we repeat this for each of the other projects, ultimately what we can begin to do is understand the various merits and demerits of each project. Let's take a look at the mathematics for a second. If we drill into this, what we're seeing is for this project alpha, for the scenario pessimistic, the performance impact on that scenario is based on these percentages, and then based on the performance strategy gap, we can work out effectively the strategic impact of that performance gap. And if we look at that across in a formula basis, what I've done here is inside the spreadsheet, we've taken basically for that project alpha scenario pessimistic, the performance is going to equal what is the project performance impact. In this case, we had an increase of whatever it was, $250,000, divided by the net impact of performance based on that scenario. So the scenario showed us a decrease in customers, the project gives us an increase in customers, and therefore the strategy points equal what does the adjusted weighting do against this adjusted performance. So the strategy weighting, let's say 30% times the performance impact, will give us the net score. So if we take a look at those across all the projects, we begin to see that in the different scenarios, different projects perform better. So for example, if as the year unfolded, scenario 1 looked like it was going to occur, we might be investing in project beta. On the other hand, if scenario 2, the stagnation scenario, goes forward, we might actually invest in project alpha because it gives us more traction. But if it's scenario 3 that is going forward, project gamma looks best. So the issue here is, based on the scenario, different portfolios of projects look more attractive to leadership. And the scenario planning is helping us identify how do we change our strategy in reaction to this new scenario, and secondly, what reaction should we be taking inside the organization to make that happen. Let's go and take a look at the spreadsheet to see how this works. So back in the PowerPoint slide deck, the most important aspect of scenario analysis is giving us visibility to what options are available to us going forward, and more importantly, allow us to understand how different reactions will impact the different scenarios. In this way, the organization can maintain a portfolio of projects and through scenario planning decide which projects need to get prioritized and executed based on whichever scenario turns out. So in this case, as I said before, project beta is best in this scenario pessimistic. Project Alpha is best in scenario 2, which is stagnation, and in the optimistic scenario, Project 3 looks like it's best. So this isn't an exact science, as you can tell, but at least it allows management to begin to differentiate between its options and understand which strategic levers it can pull on to go forward. So back in the spreadsheet, we have Project Alpha. So let's change its name for just indicating how the spreadsheet works. Let's call this Get More Customers as a sake of argument. And what we can then do is begin to map out what is the impact on Get More Customers against these same units of measure that we had against the strategic objectives. So what's it going to do for our revenue, costs, and so forth. So looking at the impact of that project on this strategic objective, what's it going to do? So getting more customers, it's going to drive up revenue by 250,000. It's going to reduce our costs by 100. It's going to increase the number of customers by 200 and so forth. Now, these numbers here end up getting totaled down the bottom of the spreadsheet. And then if we move over to the calculation range down here in the spreadsheet, you'll see that we've taken the sum of the score, divided it by the scenario adjusted performance. So in this case, we increased revenue by $250,000, but in this scenario, we dropped sales down to $500,000. So the impact is at 33%. Then it takes a look at the strategy points, which is a multiplication of the new weighting, which is in cell N5, N4, times the performance impact, which we calculated over here, and then multiplied by 100 to get rid of the percentage issue. And that ends up scoring the impact of the project, Get More Customers, on the scenario Nowhere to Go, gets us 58.9 points. The same project, based on the same performance impact of the project but the different weighting, gets us 64 points on the success scenario, and on the optimistic scenario, only 36.4 points. So if we scroll over to the chart over here, what you'll see is now the impact of those different scenarios, 58.9 here, a better value of 64.2 here, and only 36.4 here gets carried over. And based on this, it now looks like Project Beta is the best project for scenario 1 and so forth. So all we're doing is the calculation that we described to create this chart down here.